A wild and wonderful Wednesday to you. Welcome back inside the Tier 4 studio in Morgantown, West Virginia for the Charleston Daily Mail. I am Mike Casaz, and you have joined me once again. Thank you very much for our weekly Wednesday walkthrough. Second one of the season because Saturday is our second game of the season, and I'm sure you hope for 11 more of these, and I'm not really sure how you feel about that based on Saturday's showing, but that's in the past, as a wise man once said, and I encourage you to look forward to this coming game because it's a new opportunity to renew optimism or maybe even solidify your pessimism, but that is for the two teams and the players and the coaches to decide, and for Gus Johnson and Charles Davis at 7 p.m. on Fox from Memorial Stadium to describe in living color. A couple quick things stand out as we discuss this game from the end of the William and Mary game until now. Probably most notable is that West Virginia is a 19.5, 20.5 point underdog. That is the largest spread working against the Mountaineers since 2003, 124 games ago, when they went down to then number 2 Miami and lost 22-20 in the Quincy Wilson / Brandon Merriweather / Kellen Winslow game. High drama in that game, as it's one of those events that lives on so many years later now. Also interesting, this is the earliest that WVU has opened their conference play since 2005. We talked before, the similarities between that season and this one are apparent. That season ended in the Sugar Bowl. West Virginia got in a roll, used that first game against Syracuse in the Dome to get some momentum going and feel really good about their defense and even their quarterback position, although that kind of changed dramatically against Louisville. I think in that first game last week, you felt better about the defense, you learned a little bit about your quarterback, but more importantly, this Oklahoma game could be a springboard to something maybe not in your mind right now, which is what makes the game exciting. A couple things to look at during this game. One, disregard last year's game completely. These teams are very different on offense and very different on defense. They've kind of put makeup on all different parts of their appearance from that game to really give it a different look this year. What I mean is Oklahoma is doing a lot of zone read stuff with their redshirt freshman quarterback. I don't think we expected that in abundance like we saw in their first game against Louisiana Monroe. They still have good receivers. We'll talk about Saunders and the way he can affect the game of the punt return a little bit, but also he's probably one of the more dangerous ball and hand guys in the league, and he's a slot guy who can probably eat up West Virginia's defensive backs if they don't take care of their business there. But also, they have two really good running backs, Brennan Clay, Damian Williams. The offensive line is mammoth. Their center, Gabe Icard, is as good as anyone in the country. You should watch him and see how he helps out his teammates before and during and after the play. Their tackles are very good. Their guards are seasoned. I'm talking them up, but they are really, really good up front this year. And they have a good coach. You know him as Bill Bedenbaugh. But again, the zone read's a little bit interesting. I'd be curious to see how West Virginia combats that, because maybe they didn't have the best game plan last year, but at least they knew what they were going against, because Bob Stoops, if you think about his teams, they've been throwing teams with Landry Jones and Sam Bradford, even going back to Jason White, a long, long time ago. This has been a spread offense that's put the ball in the air. That is not this team right now, at least not at the present, and it may change later as Knight gets more confidence in his arm and his receivers and vice versa. But for now, running the ball, West Virginia's defensive front is going to have to be really good, and that is especially true for the linebackers who did have some trouble in the passing game against their running backs, but they're going to throw the ball to their running backs in Oklahoma, and they're going to use their quarterback, and typically your linebackers are in charge of at least monitoring the quarterback and making sure he doesn't get too out of pocket on you. For West Virginia, again, a different offense for them. They're not chucking it like we're accustomed to, and they're running it because a similar situation with uncertainty at quarterback, but also the best talent they have and the most talent they have is at running back. This will be fun to watch because Oklahoma, at least in their first game, came out in what we would call a pass defense. 3 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and a nickelback, plus the secondary. And those are good players. I looked at a good defensive lineman in Gino Grissom. Their linebackers, Frank Shannon and Corey Nelson, quick guys who can kind of beat gaps and get up the field on you. Also from the same high school in Texas. And their cornerback, Aaron Colvin, really as good as any one of them in the country. One thing that West Virginia's players and coaches talked about Tuesday night was they wanted to find a way to win the position battles outside with their receivers against Oklahoma's defenders and defensive backs. Reason being, Oklahoma will play almost no zone. Maybe when it's 3rd and 40, something like that, and they don't want one thrown over their head and get beat for a cheap first down, but they're going to rely on their men outside to just win one-on-one battles and make it really hard for West Virginia's receivers to get up the field and get open. That's a concern for West Virginia because their receivers, frankly, didn't do a very good job making plays in the first game. Now, what can happen out there? Well, Oklahoma can really lock them down and discourage West Virginia's passing game, which further emboldens the defense to blitz and blitz and blitz and pressure and wreak havoc in the backfield. Or West Virginia's receivers can beat the jam or get open right away off the line of scrimmage. And what that does, if they're getting passes inside, It's going to encourage some of these linebackers to scoot out and to give the defensive backs help. So if they're making play down the field, that encourages the safeties and maybe even the linebackers to back up a little bit. Now you're creating room and alleys for the running game to go. You start running the ball, you can pass it better, and it all goes back to you passing the ball well so you can run the ball better. So for both teams, it'll be interesting to see what the offense does and what direction they take and how that affects the defense, and also the challenges that the defense present to prevent the offense from doing what they want to do. Classic chess, really common in football, but it's not what you're used to seeing, I guess, in the one game you got used to seeing Oklahoma play against West Virginia. One more for you and I'll get out of here. Special teams. I think people are really happy with what happened against West Virginia. Let's not pretend that William & Mary athletically is even close to Oklahoma. Nick O'Toole, great job punting. He's punting to arguably the best punt returner in the game coming up here Saturday night. Saunders will not fair catch the ball. He's going to catch it. He's going to go. He's dangerous, and that's going to be a test for West Virginia's coverage teams. I expect to see them maybe do some directional stuff and try to use the sideline as an extra defender. But again, Saunders wants the ball. He's going to take it. He's going to go. He's been told to do that by his coaches. And also, this is bad news for West Virginia now, but there are 3 players who have season-ending injuries. Dozie Azima, Shaq Petaway, Nana Kyram. They were on 3, 4, and 3 special teams. 3 for Dozie, 3 for Nana, and 4 for Shaq. And those special teams are punt, punt return, kickoff, kickoff return. You don't just take one person and plug him into those 3 spots. Now you're talking about going a little bit deeper in the depth chart. You're putting a new guy in on 1 and then maybe 2 guys in on 2 more if you're going to cover up the 3 spots, for example, that Dozie played. You can't have one person do all 4 that Shaq did, so you're taking maybe 3 guys to cover them up. Similar situation for Nana. You're having probably 2 or 3 guys cover his 2 or 3 spots. Now what happens there? Now you're using a handful of players that I just described there. Maybe, I don't know, 10 guys to cover what those 3 guys did. But who's behind those 10 guys? Well, if it's a first-team player on offense or even a backup on defense, you don't want that person jumping up and filling a depth chart because now you're really thinning things out. So you're going to have to even go down on your second string and replace those spots with 1 or 2 people. It's really, really convoluted, and Joe DeForest has kind of rolled his eyes saying that people don't realize one injury can have up to 12 different positions kind of redrawing their depth chart and what they're doing. And it's a minor thing, but maybe it's major on Saturday night. Hopefully Joe DeForest, I think what he would say, would not have to worry about that, but it's something that he talked about tonight, and just one of many problems that West Virginia will encounter Saturday night in Norman, Oklahoma.